What's up, guys? It's Alyssa once again and Dr. Quintus Jett. So, in this video, we're going to talk about the countdown to the primaries. Quintus, what is
Countdown.
this countdown? Yeah,
All
tell us
right. Well, there's
more.
there's really two countdowns maybe I'm going to focus on. So the first countdown is the countdown to February the 3rd when the Iowa caucus begins to head this thing to get it all started. So that's like about, as you all have seen this, is a little bit over 60 days. But then there's another countdown. So after
Awesome.
Iowa starts, the primaries are a series of states that
Yeah.
some have caucuses, some have primaries, some and each state has its own rules, like on who can participate. Is it a closed primary? Is it an open primary? Early voting
Mm-hmm.
or not? Absentee? All that stuff. I mean, each state decides all that. And so,
Mm.
basically, after Iowa starts, within the first 5 weeks after that, by March
Mm.
10th, 50%, half of the pledged delegates will have been decided by March 10th.
Oh my God.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet. Everyone's going to have to be in there, and all these candidates, and 50% of the pledged delegates will be done in 5 weeks.
All right. Yeah. Like we said in our last video, the delegates is the part of how we choose our nominee. Like they
Yep,
listen
yep.
to the votes on the ground. Of course, like they have to, see, you have to take that into account. But primarily, the delegates is what we have to pay attention to as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. So 50%. That's a
Yeah. So I'll do is I'm going to break this down into three things, and as a backdrop, I'm going to show. I'm going to post like a map.
Here we go. We see
I'm not.
it.
I'm not sure how this works, so they'll see us. But okay, basically,
Yeah.
in the map, the first thing is there are the four early states. So there's
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
The important thing that people need to know is the important thing about Iowa and New Hampshire. We all tend to focus on them being mostly white. That's actually not what's
Mm-hmm.
important about them.
Mm.
What's important is the retail politic of these states. That means like
Oh.
for the past like 40 years or so at least, these two states are used to having presidential candidates come in, and it's a lot of one-on-one. So they actually ask you questions, and they're comparing you not just to other candidates, but their memories of other candidates who've come through there.
Past Canada's. Yeah, even Yang talks about this, especially in New Hampshire.
Yep.
That's
Yep. So
crazy.
it's like so it's almost like they want to get to know you. So that sense, what's special about these places is that, I mean, if you were to begin in California, it would almost be impossible for a long shot candidate
Mm.
because there's just the state's so big. You just whoever bought the most commercials would get the attention. This Iowa and New Hampshire allows a little bit of being able to break that up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's how Jimmy Carter kind of appeared out of nowhere in 1976. It's just like, Iowa, people saw him, hey, he's a good guy. And so Iowa's as a special kind of place, especially the caucus, where just having money doesn't
Mm.
mean you're going to get it.
Gotcha. Yeah, people are looking for the character in
Right,
Iowa.
right. And then the other two states. So what's happened is over time, as the Democratic Party is primary voters many are of color. In fact, I mean,
Mm.
African Americans are really at the base of the Democratic Party. So there were some complaints about
Yeah.
this. They're like, hey, okay, we appreciate Iowa and New Hampshire, but and I think
Mm-hmm.
actually New Hampshire's constitution is wired so it must be the first primary. It's in its
Right.
constitution, so that just is what it is. But they said, okay, how can we involve other states that have more diversity in them?
Okay.
So South Carolina has a lot of African Americans.
Yep.
Nevada has a lot of Hispanic Americans.
Okay.
You ever wonder?
Interesting.
You ever wonder why South Carolina and why Nevada?
Yeah, that I honestly I didn't know until just now. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, part of it is James Clyburn, who's on a leader in Congress, African
Yeah.
American. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure he had a role in why South Carolina ended up being the state with
Ah.
African Americans that would become early.
Oh, okay.
And then
Nice.
one of the leaders in the Senate, now retired, Harry Reid, he was from Nevada.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wait. Oh yeah. When we in Las Vegas, when we had the First in the West event, like they had like a whole like PowerPoint and all this stuff about him. He actually was at the event. Like he's the one that like brought Nevada such an early voting state. Yeah, he's like a legend over there.
Mm-hmm. And see, so in a way, there's a reason. There's some reasons why this is as it is.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so you go through these 4 states. That this year takes us through February. So it's the sequence of states, and then the first week of March is what's called Super Tuesday. Now, most people, we never stop to say, where did Super Tuesday come from? Super Tuesday, I mean, it kind of goes back to the late 80s and the 90s, where Bill Clinton was from Arkansas, and there are a lot of Southern Democrats who want to make sure that their views, or that they had a say in all this, and Democrats in the South tended to be a little bit more centrist, a little bit more.
Yes.
And in fact, I think that was what the organization that Bill Clinton ran as a governor in Arkansas. I think it was called the Democratic Leadership Council. And it was like they were trying to come up with a new way of being a Democrat that was, that was more friendly to like Southern Democrats. And Al Gore is probably from that world too. So Super Tuesday originally had a lot of Southern states in it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So in a way, it's like what people are realizing that all this talk we have now about progressive versus centrist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Super Tuesday is effectively a firewall, because we have a lot of Southern states, and so the way that Democrats think in Tennessee and Alabama, it's different. In Virginia, that's not the same as California or New York and all that.
Gotcha.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the map, and I'm going to list what's at stake on Super Tuesday. So the February ones, the early states, are only 10% of the delegates, but it causes a lot of reputation. It's like whoever wins Iowa is going to get a lot of money. This year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like, so it's a reputational thing. You got to do well in these other states. You can't ignore them. You shouldn't ignore them. But then Super Tuesday itself has something like at least a third. There's a lot of states, and so what's at stake in Super Tuesday?
All right, let's check it out. I'm excited.
Alabama.
Okay.
American Samoa. So there are primaries in U.S. territories. So there are 6 delegates at stake in American Samoa. There's also Arkansas is Super Tuesday. California. So for the very first time, California, which used to be off in June, like really late, they've been saying, we're the biggest state, we ought to be heard. And so they finally were able to work it out with the state, with the Democratic Party. So now California, for the first time, the biggest number of delegates, over 400, they're going to be on Super Tuesday. Colorado is going to be on Super Tuesday.
Okay.
Maine is going to be on Super Tuesday.
Gotcha.
Massachusetts is going to be on Super Tuesday.
Awesome.
Minnesota is going to be on Super Tuesday.
Oh, really? Wow.
North Carolina is going to be on Super Tuesday, which means that actually Super Tuesday is about 3 days after South Carolina. So basically, we're going to have like South Carolina on February 29th, and then like 3 days later is North Carolina.
I'm in North Carolina right now.
Right. And so we're not even done yet. So Oklahoma is part of Super Tuesday. Tennessee is part of Super Tuesday, and Texas, which has been in March for a while, but they're moved up. So now the second most populous state in terms of delegates, they're in Super Tuesday as well. And then Utah is in Super Tuesday. The state of Vermont is in Super Tuesday. I'm not done yet. Virginia is in Super Tuesday, and Democrats abroad. So like if you're an expat, and I just found out today that Andrew Yang has qualified to be on that ballot for the Democrats abroad. So that's good.
Okay, good. Awesome.
So all of this is Super Tuesday, and so this is why, like in a future thing when we start talking about Abundance for America and in our sort of the All America ground game, this is why we're focused on every state, because look at how many states I just mentioned for Super Tuesday.
Yep, it's like covers everything from the south to the north, east to the west.
It's everywhere, and we got to show up. And because of the way presidential campaigns work, and because, especially
Yeah,
given how important Iowa and New Hampshire are in terms of like, like not reputation, but signaling results.
yeah,
Because of all that, what we see is uh, that every campaign ends up converging onto those early states as it's about to begin. And in the past, during the summer, I mean, a lot of candidates, when they could, would dip into other states, Super Tuesday states, occasionally.
gotcha.
But not. I mean, but that's where they're all focusing, except for Bloomberg. He dropped his $30 million. If you look at the map, if you were to see a map of where all his ads were, it does
Yeah,
pretty much follow this. He skips the early states entirely, and he's starting to broadcast into Super Tuesday states.
I heard a dear friend of mine said that, yeah, he's spending a lot of money in Texas, more
Yep.
because a lot of people, yeah, like
It's early.
I didn't even
Oh,
know that. I knew about California, obviously, but I didn't know about Texas being that early.
so all these states we just talked about, like Super Tuesday. So that's not even it for March. That's
Okay.
March 3rd, right? The
Mm-hmm.
next week is March 10th. And so after March 10th, 50% of the delegates will have been decided.
Okay.
All right.
March
So I'm going to go
10th.
back to
Yep.
the map, and I'm going to, okay, so which ones are at stake in March 10th? We have
Let's see.
Idaho, right? No one talks about Idaho, right? Because it's a red
Potatoes.
state, right? Yeah. But still,
Right.
doesn't matter if you're a red state. We need votes. We need votes in all parts of the
Yeah.
state. So Idaho is
Mm-hmm.
going to be at stake on the 10th. The state of Michigan is on the 10th.
Oh, okay.
Mississippi is going to be on the 10th.
So it's bouncing around again. It's like a little where, yeah, a little
All
bit
on
of
the same
everywhere.
day. Missouri, they're going to be on the
Yeah.
10th. North
Wow.
Dakota, and it's a caucus. North Dakota is going to be on March 10th. And so is Washington State.
Okay.
So this is
Wow.
why we as Yang Gang need to really go to work in a strategic way in all of the states that I've mentioned so far in this call.
Yep. And I know some people. I know some people, and we know some people in North Carolina. North Carolina, but also North Dakota and Minnesota. Like we know a little bit of we know you guys are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good now because a lot of people feel like they don't matter because they're in they're not in the big four states, but we're trying to show you guys that yeah, you do
Yeah.
matter, and even if you're neighboring a state, you also matter as well, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
So awesome.
But the next one I think we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how to think about competition.
Yes.
As this is going.
All right, that's the next one, y'all. We're gonna do this rapid fire.
All
Thank you
right.
guys so much for watching. This is amazing. Everyone. I love this. Awesome.
Right. Till next time.
Bye.